Hello and welcome to this course dedicated to showing you how to get the very best from your Blue Yeti microphone. I'm Elaine and I ordered my Blue Yeti back in 2009 as soon as it was announced. So long ago, the only colour option back then was silver. With 9 years experience, I'll show you how to choose the right Blue Yeti for you. Detail how to configure your working environment to get the best audio in all circumstances. Show you the accessories that will make a great difference to your audio. You'll learn how to set up your Yeti for optimal audio. We'll cover how to monitor your audio in real time. I'll even share how I use my iOS devices in my audio workflow as both high-quality field recorders and editing tools. Everyone needs to work in different ways, but once you've mastered the concepts and principles of effective audio configuration, you'll be able to create the perfect setup for capturing the best audio you've ever recorded, even in the most challenging of circumstances. The class project will be your chance to share your own before and after audio samples. If that sounds scary, fear not. I'll take you through everything you need to know to improve your audio during the course. Are you ready to completely master your Blue Yeti? I certainly hope so. I'm Elaine Giles and I hope you enjoy the course. Do join now and I look forward to meeting you on the inside. The Blue Yeti microphone was initially announced in late 2009 and released in early 2010. It was an instant hit and continues to be the number one choice for podcasters, course makers, and content creators the world over. Why is it so popular? It has a high quality construction, a great sound. It's flexible in terms of technology to record in different situations. There's real-time monitoring. You get to hear yourself as you record. It's easy to set up and configure. And it doesn't hurt. It's a great looking piece of kit either. The original Yeti was available only in silver, but now there's a whole range of colours and special editions available. There's also 3 distinct types of Blue Yeti: the original Blue Yeti, a Blue Yeti Pro, and the Yeti Nano. While the original Yeti and the Yeti Pro are similar to look at in terms of style, if not exactly livery, the big difference between the two is in the connectivity available on each model. The original USB version has only one way to connect to the host device, USB. The Pro version has both USB connectivity and an analog XLR connection for use with Pro Studio equipment. Only one of the available connection methods on a Yeti Pro can be used at any one time, so you'll have to make a choice, but changing the connection is as simple as unplugging one cable and plugging in the other. The newest member of the Yeti family is the Yeti Nano, announced in August 2018. Smaller than the original Yeti and Yeti Pro, the Nano ships in 4 colours: grey, blue, red and gold. It's more limited in features than its big brothers, but the Nano is an alternative option for those with a more limited budget or recording space. Hopefully after this course, the biggest problem you'll have with your Yeti will be choosing your preferred model and colour. Before you even attempt to set up your recording environment, you'll need to consider what you need to do with your Yeti. I know you're probably thinking, record audio with it, what else? But there's audio and there's audio. For example, for my work, I identified at least 4 very different audio setups: voice only, talking head, screen recording and live video. So to start with voice only work for me includes interviews, podcasts, narrations, and I found this to be the easiest setup. I can put the microphone on the desk in a central position. I can put my acoustic isolation microphone shield behind it, add a comfy chair, and you're done. Second type of audio, talking head. Now, talking head work could include introductory videos, lessons, anything where you're on the screen really. The major issue with audio in talking head situations is positioning the microphone for optimal audio whilst not overwhelming the video with an almighty Blue Yeti stealing most of the frame. Now, if you position it too far away, you'll pick up extraneous noise while you try and get the level of your voice loud enough. So tips for good practice here would be aware of the optics. What does it actually look like? So look through your video's viewfinder, shoot some sample video. Another option would be to use a completely different microphone, maybe a shotgun microphone. Alternatively, make a feature of your microphone. The Blue Yeti looks well, and hey, it's worked for others. Final option would be to edit the microphone out in post. That would be easier with a green screen background, but it's actually quite simple to do. Third type of audio is screen recording. Now, screen recording is certainly where I spend most of my time, and it includes app demonstrations, demonstrating devices, or maybe for you, gaming. And the issue here is you need to have the microphone close enough to you, not positioned in the way of what you need to do, or picking up too much noise of the keyboard, mouse, and general movements. Believe me, that's more difficult than it sounds without some planning. Here's a photo of my desk a few years back, and that was taken during a live streamed session. It was an extreme example, given I was demonstrating how to use 6 different online services for live streaming, whilst I was live streaming it. But all that equipment had a purpose, and it meant it was essential that I worked around it without adversely affecting the audio. The last type of audio I identified was live video. And by live video, I'm referring to video showing location footage or any video where there's action taking place other than just you talking. Now, the Blue Yeti is not the most portable of microphones, to say the least. Imagine this scenario. You're filming a cookery demonstration and you want to voice it as you go along. Now, I call this walking and talking, a walking and talking session. I need to do a demonstration and I need to describe or explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. There's no way the Blue Yeti is the optimal way to do that. We're back to a lack of portability, the likelihood that you'll pick up too much extraneous noise, and just generally it would be very difficult to work with. So what options do you have? Well, there's an alternative microphone. You could use a digital field recorder. If you absolutely must use your Blue Yeti, then you could always voice the piece later. So a scenario 1 situation of recording voice only. And that way you'll get great audio with the benefit of it matching any other audio you've recorded with your Blue Yeti. So maybe a studio-based demonstration or a dedicated audio piece. Consistency in your courses or your content is essential to making it sound professional. So to summarise, there are many different recording situations that you may find yourself in, and one size of configuration or setup will not fit them all. But as long as you're aware of the potential issues, you are halfway to solving them and still getting the best audio possible. The watchword here is to be aware. Based on the outcome of your analysis of what audio you'll be creating, covered in the last lesson, it's time to get started with your Blue Yeti. Even before you've unpacked it, there are things that you can do to ensure that you improve your chances of getting the best audio quality you can from your Blue Yeti. Step 1 would be choosing your recording location. If you're lucky, you'll be choosing it, but for many this is less of a choice and more of a case of it's the only space or location available. Step 2. Minimise the external noise. Now, once you start recording, you'll be amazed at just how much noise there is around you that you unconsciously filter out on a day-by-day basis. The second you press record, you will sadly become painfully aware of every sound. Air conditioning, the electrical hum from your computer, traffic, aircraft, dogs barking, ice cream vans, ambulances, even your breathing. So back to minimising the external noise. Best advice is don't leave it until post to do something about that extraneous sound. The best mantra to adopt is this: what doesn't get recorded doesn't need removing in post. But how do you do that? Well, choose the quietest location you possibly can. Turn off anything and everything you can to minimise the noise. Close the windows, close the curtains, and even if necessary, change the recording time. It's currently 2:45 a.m. here, and I'm happy to report it's very peaceful. Step 3 is anything else. You can soften echo in a room using fabric on the walls. Mine are swathed in a thick acoustic curtaining, which is hiding foam behind them. Another thing you can do is something that I've done: add fabric to your desk. Mine are covered in leather, and it really does make a difference. I didn't buy them like that, it was added after. If you're doing app demonstrations, get a quiet keyboard and mouse. Think I'm joking? This is my old keyboard. Needless to say, I swapped it. Positioning your microphone is something so important we have a full lesson dedicated to it coming up. But I wanted to share what I hope is an inspirational story with you about what you can do even when the circumstances seem determined to conspire against you. You can get good audio even in the most adverse of situations. It was a Friday morning. My other half and I were on our way to a hotel for a long weekend. As we were driving there, an email arrived proclaiming an urgent need for a promotional video. Now. Seriously? Apparently so. We arrive at the hotel. Nice room. On the main corridor, between the dining room and the principal accommodation, meaning there was a huge amount of footfall right outside the room. The bathroom was great, but there was an extractor fan running permanently. Short of dismantling it, there was nothing we could do to quieten it down. If anybody in the building flushed the toilet, we knew about it. Add to that a boy racer outside revving the engine of his sports car, and finally, doors slamming, repeatedly. It was the absolute opposite to everything you need when you're recording. And to put the cherry on top of it, we had no external microphone with us. But there's always something that you can do, and this was no exception. We closed all the windows, we closed the curtains, we closed the bathroom door. We moved a chair to the end of the bed and dragged the quilt from the bed over the chair to create the quietest space we could. We used an iPad for the dialogue required to be recorded, and we used an iPhone to actually record the audio. So there was my other half with the iPad and the iPhone swaddled in a king-sized quilt, while I directed proceedings from beyond his cocoon. Once recorded, the audio was transferred to a MacBook Air that I'd had the foresight to take with me, and it was edited. Despite this being the level of the background noise, proper configuration of the field recording software meant this was what was actually recorded.
Welcome to the Excel Beginners Plus training, where you'll learn to harness the power of Microsoft Excel. My name's Mike, and I'll be leading you through the course. I'm a long-time user of Excel, and through my videos, written tutorials...
Once the background music track was added, this was the final result.
Welcome to the Excel Beginners Plus training, where you'll learn to harness the power of Microsoft Excel. My name's Mike, and I'll be leading you through the course. I'm a long-time user of Excel, and through my videos, written tutorials...
So what's the takeaway? Circumstances don't have to be perfect for you to get good audio. You just need to know how to make the very best of what you've got, and that is what the rest of this course is all about. Once you have your Yeti out of the box, the first opportunity you have to ensure good audio is the cable. Not all USB cables are made equal, and the cable that ships with the Blue Yeti is thicker than many USB cables. That thickness provides good insulation from interference. Does it actually make a difference? Well, my thoughts were, despite opinions varying, why take a risk? But then reality struck. In working on this course, I've been moving my Blue Yeti around extensively, and I inadvertently used a different cable. I got nothing. The microphone didn't even show as a device using a thinner cable. Lesson learned. Always use the cable that's shipped with your Blue Yeti. If you have the Pro model, that ships with cables for both USB and XLR. Again, use the shipping cables to hook up your gear. If nothing else, using those cables means you've got one less issue to consider if you do have problems with maybe electrical interference or static sounds in your recording. My sole exception to that general rule came when I needed to relay audio from one room to another during a live broadcast. There was no way the 3-metre cable supplied by Blue would have stretched as far as I needed, so I purchased a 10-metre USB cable. But it wasn't just a longer standard USB cable, it was an active repeater cable. An active repeater cable lets you extend USB connections between your computer and USB devices. Now it does that utilising a built-in signal booster chipset, which assures peak performance with minimum loss of signal quality. It's claimed that you can daisy chain up to 2 to 3 active extension cables to reach even longer distances, but I didn't try to get that ambitious. So with regards to cables, stick to the shipping cables unless you have a specific need for something longer. If you do, be sure to get an active cable. And if your recordings do have a problem, try a different cable just in case there is a fault on it. If you're looking to buy a replacement cable, go for a triple shielded foil braid grounded cable to maximise the EMI RFI protection and maintain a good signal quality. Remember, not all cables are created equal. You might be wondering why we're talking about boom arms when the Yeti is supplied with a perfectly usable stand of its own. And the answer to that's simple. Get it off your desk. Seriously, while the supplied stand is completely integrated and the Yeti is impressively majestic, standing over a foot tall with that stand, ditching it will make a huge impact on the quality of audio that you can get from the microphone. On your desk, on its stand, it will pick up vibrations from equipment, the environment, and you. Think back to the lesson where we discussed what you're doing with your Blue Yeti and all I said about the noise that would be picked up from your desk, particularly when it comes to software demonstrations. Boom arms don't have to be that expensive, but you'll need to be careful when selecting one, given that the Blue Yeti is considerably heavier than most other microphones. And, as we'll be discussing in an upcoming lesson, there is additional equipment to be bolted onto that boom arm in the form of shock mounts and pop filters. So, should you just buy the cheapest? Well, that depends. Cheaper options tend to have issues that you wouldn't even think of until you've bought them and installed them. Even if they will take the weight of a Blue Yeti, many of them are very stiff, and they don't provide any fluid movement of the microphone across the recording space. Another issue is that they can squeak when they're moved. So if you need to move your boom arm during a recording, it's likely that it will pick that up in your recording. My pet peeve with cheaper boom arms is that the springs are on the outside rather than being shielded on the inside. And that means even the slightest movement makes a twanging sound that's very distracting in a recording. Yes, that's it, the unmistakable twanging sound. Although Blue do supply boom arms, they are more expensive than other good quality alternatives. They're also more difficult to get hold of. They seem to be perpetually out of stock at most suppliers. But the boom arm from Blue is the Blue Compass. It's made of extruded aluminium with a C-style desk clamp. Now that allows for a full 360 degrees of rotation. The horizontal reach of the arm is 23 inches. And it does have the benefit of a hidden channel for cable management. So it does look very neat, very tidy. It can support a maximum weight hold of 2.4 pounds. And that's not just the microphone. That's the total of the microphone, the shock mount and the pop filter. In common with most other boom arms, it has a standard 5/8 threading, and it includes an adapter for a 3/8 threading too. Now while that's the option from Blue, one of the best options for an affordable boom arm in terms of good quality, internal springs and 2 ways to attach it to your desk is the Rode PSA-1. And that's the option that I've gone for. Again, it has a standard 5/8 connector and another 5/8 to 3/8 reducer in the box. It has a slightly longer horizontal reach of 32 inches and a vertical reach of 33 inches. And again, it has a full 360 degree rotation. It ships with some accessories. So it ships with Velcro cable straps and 2 ways to attach it to the desk. First of all, there's a desk clamp. That works on desks up to 55mm, which is over 2 inches. And there's also a desk insert attachment. Now to use that, you would have to drill into your desk. But if you have the option to do that, that will give you the best use of your boom arm. And that works on thicker desks up to 77mm. Weight-wise, the PSA-1 supports again most microphones, weighing between 1.5 pounds and 2.4 pounds. Don't forget that's got to include the shock mount and the pop filter. Neither of these options in terms of boom arms includes a shock mount or pop filter. But that's probably just as well, particularly for the PSA-1, because the Yeti is a different shape to most microphones, and there's no point in being supplied with something that's going to be unusable. Shock mounts and pop filters are what we're going to look at in the next couple of lessons. So you've got your Yeti off the desk and onto a boom arm. Optimising your audio doesn't stop there. That's where the shock mount comes in. Microphones are very sensitive to rumble and vibration-based noise. You may have heard of that referred to as structure-borne noise, impact noise, or ambient vibration noise. Whatever you want to call it, it's going to affect the quality of your audio. And the best way to ensure clean audio is to separate the microphone physically from any potential vibration. via an elastic suspension-based shock mount. Does it make a difference? Well, take a listen. First, without a shock mount. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. And once more with a shock mount. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. It's subtle, but there is a difference. Now you might be wondering if there's another way to exclude such vibration-related elements from your recording. Maybe you've heard of a low-cut filter or another post-processing effect. The thing is, that only works as long as the vibrational noises don't get too loud. If you inadvertently or accidentally knock the microphone or the stand, the resulting vibration may just be too much to be effectively removed using software-based processing alone. A shock mount is much more effective because it reduces the impact-based noise before it even reaches the microphone. And what isn't recorded doesn't need to be removed. Now, what about internal shock mounts, where the capsule inside the microphone is shock absorbent? Well, it helps to make a clean recording, but an additional external shock mount is much more effective. Blue makes a dedicated shock mount for the Yeti. In fact, it's now in its third revision and known as the Blue Radius 3. The third revision was released early in 2018, and the second revision is still readily available if you prefer the old style. Version 3 is available in black, and in some ways it doesn't actually look as impressive as version 2. It's more subtle, but in being so, less impressive. However, it's new and it's more streamlined with a lighter weight design. The benefit of version 2, though, is that it ships in silver, black or white. Now, both versions consist of two concentric circles of metal attached to each other with very strong elastic. The inner circle has a triangular connector on version 2 and a spoon-shaped connector on version 3. That's what's used to attach the Yeti itself to the shock mount. The outer circle hosts a hinge, and that's used to attach the radius to a boom arm. It has full movement, allowing the Yeti to be placed in a whole range of positions. The main difference between the initial Blue Radius and the second version was an improvement to the hinge element of the mount. The version 2 design locks in place. Now that's just as well, because I can tell you I have the original design and I have to tighten the hinge screw at least once a week. It's the hinge that allows you to position the mount with the Yeti pointing upwards or downwards depending on your preference. All three versions are compatible with standard microphone stands and also work with virtually any boom arm that has that standard thread mount. However, if you're looking to save some money, then there are alternatives that come in at a third of the price of a Radius 2 or less than half the price of a Radius 3. The one from Orphonics is an aluminium shock mount. It looks very similar to the Blue Radius, if fractionally smaller. I haven't tried it personally, so if you're thinking of trying one, do check the reviews. So having made the decision it's worth investing in a shock mount, there's just the business of extricating the Yeti from its stand. Not too tricky, there's only 2 screws holding the Yeti to the stand. Simply unscrew the screws whilst holding the microphone so you don't damage it, and that's all there is to it. Attaching it to the shock mount, which I suggest you do before you attach the shock mount to the boom arm, is simple too. Just attach the shock mount to the connector on the base of the Yeti. All of which only left me with one problem. It was a problem to me. You might not be quite so OCD as me. Removing the screws attaching the Yeti to the stand leaves 2 screw holes. On view. Seriously? Come on, Blue, provide something to cover them already. But fear not, I found a really simple cost-effective solution. In fact, I found 2 for my silver Yeti. First, plastic screw covers. They were grey in colour, and I easily attached them temporarily using blue tack. Second alternative was stickers. They're actually self-adhesive screw cap covers, and these had the benefit of being self-adhesive, so I didn't need the blue tack. Either of these have worked really well for me. If you have a Yeti of another colour though, you may need to source something that matches your Yeti, or something that completely contrasts with it maybe. So that's the benefits and options with shock mounts. Next, it's pop filters. As with almost everything audio related, as we've seen, you have many options when it comes to pop filters. But the first question is, do you need one? Well, the function of a pop filter is to mitigate the impact of those plosive P's and sibilant S's. And they do that by interrupting the flow of air between your mouth and the microphone. And there are many kinds of pop filters, including the official pop filter for the Yeti from Blue. That's known as Blue the Pop Universal Pop Filter. In terms of construction, it's certainly made well. It's made of metal. There is a curved frame hosting a fine metal mesh with the Blue logo emblazoned on it. Now the curve is curved to match the Yeti, and in addition to that, it has a flexible arm on it. Weight-wise, well, joy, it adds more weight to that boom arm of a few lessons ago, but it's not too bad. The attachment is made via the flexible neck with a small clamp. Now, if you've decided that you don't want a boom arm and you're not going to use a shock mount, then you still have the option of using a pop filter. While it will work attached to the stand that ships with the Yeti, you could find there's more chance you'll knock the setup during recording, leading to more editing requirements to remove the noise or even force redos. It will work with a Yeti mounted in a boom arm. The biggest issue there, of course, as I've said, is it will add weight to it. The metal construction means it's a little heavier than the plastic alternatives, and it might be worth trying one before you commit. The reason I say that is the price is currently $49.99, which on checking I found to be considerably more than I paid back in 2013. I paid $26.50. So there's been a huge price hike and it's now a lot more of an investment. But it does look the part, matching the styling of the Yeti, if not maybe the colour. If you could borrow one from a friend or maybe find one in a store, then you could test it out first. Now, in terms of alternatives, you'll doubtless be familiar with the look of the more standard lollipop pop filter. It's usually a plastic construction consisting of a circle with a thin fabric stretched across it, with a flexible neck and either a bulldog clip style attachment or a screw attachment. In terms of weight, it probably weighs just less than the pop from Blue, but fractionally more than the third option I'll discuss shortly. And the wisdom of using it is going to depend on the weight-bearing capability of your boom arm. The desk stand is more than capable of taking it, but again, you're adding to the bulk of the whole recording setup on your desk. The great thing about these type of pop filters is that they can be purchased very inexpensively. The most popular on Amazon is currently under $10. In terms of looks, it's not the most stylish, but if it's in your budget and it gets the job done, who's worried? The third option is a wind screen or a foam dome. Much more discreet and ergonomically sound. Construction-wise, it's a simple dome of hollowed-out foam, and that fits snugly over the mesh-covered top of the Yeti. Now, it used to be a case of stretching a standard-sized foam dome around the Yeti, but things have moved on, and now you can buy foam domes specifically made for the Blue Yeti. This type of pop filter has the benefit of adding virtually no weight to your already burgeoning boom arm. If you get the correct size for a Yeti, fitting it should be straightforward. If it's more of a standard size, you're going to need to stretch it and be very careful when fitting it, or you'll likely split it. Now, the standard size foam domes are a little cheaper. You can get a pack of 5 for under $10. A model specifically designed for the Yeti is probably going to cost $5 to $6 for one. Looks-wise, not too bad to be honest, unless you're an absolute purist, in which case you could well be horrified at the mere thought of it. In which case, you might well want to look away as we see a whole range of the colour options available. I think they could match the range of the Yeti's livery better, but hey, you can't have everything, can you? Now, whatever type of pop filter you go for, do get one. It will make a big difference to the quality of your audio. Depending on your recording arrangement, you may benefit from adding an acoustic isolation shield to it. Now, by recording arrangement, I mean all the things we discussed back in the What Are You Doing With Your Blue Yeti lesson, the types of audio that you may be recording. To recall, voice only, talking head, screen recording, or live video. As we'll see, an acoustic isolation shield is more suited to some situations than others. The acoustic isolation shield is an arc-shaped construction, usually made of metal, lined with foam, and it attaches to a microphone stand, but not to a boom arm. It's far too heavy for that. The microphone is placed within the arc, with the foam behind it. Its function is to reduce the echo in the recording space. Now, a common misconception is that its function is to prevent the microphone from picking up extraneous noise. Now, obviously, placing a physical object, such as a shield, between the microphone and any source of noise will mitigate the impact of that noise, but it won't stop the barking of the neighbour's dog or the drone of passing traffic reaching your final recording completely. It's really to mitigate the echo in and hollowness of a recording space. I bought one a while back and installed it. It seemed like a good idea at the time. And for recording episodes of Mac Bites, it was great. There was no echo, there was a nice rich warm sound, no issues at all. So, was all well in paradise with my new toy then? Well, not exactly. As I say for Mac Bites, it was absolutely fine, because all I needed to do was talk. And maybe see the recording notes. I could do that on an iPad or even an iPhone. For recording training videos, it was maybe not the wisest decision I ever made. Seeing the screen around the Arc was, shall we say, challenging. For live sessions on YouTube and private clients, what was I thinking? Seriously, not only did I struggle to see the screen of my iMac, I didn't have room to move on my desk. Virtually everything I did meant knocking the stand with either my hands or a piece of equipment. The shock mount, boom arm and pop filter all worked well enough to minimise the sounds of those impacts on the final recording, but I could hear them, so the Arc had to go. However, if you only, or at least primarily, do voiceover work rather than demonstrations, it could work well for you. Cost-wise, a good quality acoustic isolation shield can be purchased for approximately $60 to $80. Another alternative is to make your own, and many people do. A box of a suitable size, lined with foam, is all you need to replicate the functionality of the professional equipment, and you can do that for a fraction of the cost of the real thing. One of the easiest ways to improve the audio from your Blue Yeti is simply addressing it in the correct way. But what does that actually mean? Well, the Blue Yeti has 4 recording modes or patterns, and those alternatives are stereo, cardioid, omnidirectional and bidirectional. So let's start with stereo. When set to stereo, the direction of pickup in terms of audio is to the front, the left and the right of the microphone. And you would use that for vocals or maybe instruments. Now, if you want to balance the captured audio, then the best place for the microphone is in the centre of the sound that you're capturing. That will capture an equal signal in both channels. Now, you might be wondering, when wouldn't I want that? Of course I would. Actually, it can be quite effective to have one half of an interview slightly louder in one channel than the other, and vice versa for the other half of the interview. So a 2-person chat sounds to the listener as if one speaker is on their left and slightly louder, while the other is on their right and slightly louder. The second option is cardioid. Now with that, the direction of pickup of sound is from the front of the microphone only. It's perfect to use for vocals, voiceovers and podcasts. In fact, it's likely the mode that you'll use most for single presenter voice work. And obviously the reason for that is that in picking up audio from the front of the Yeti only, it mitigates extraneous noise from other directions. The third option is omnidirectional. With this one, the direction of pickup is front, left, right and back, which means it's perfect for field recordings, events or conference calls. Omnidirectional is almost the reverse of cardioid in that it picks up sound equally from all directions, hence it being good for situations where you want to pick up audio from all directions. However, it would be a nightmare for creating a course or recording a podcast. Finally, there's bidirectional, and the direction of pickup here is front and back. When would you use that? Interviews, vocal duets, and maybe multiple instruments. So the bidirectional option can be useful for voice work where again you've got 2 speakers and you're working together. In this mode, the Yeti picks up from the front and the rear of the microphone, but sounds from the side are rejected. So it could be very useful for keeping a setup simple and hence keeping the cost down for a 2-person recording setup where you use one microphone with one person at the front and the other at the back. Now, one of the most critical things to be aware of with the Blue Yeti is the Yeti is a side address microphone. Don't talk to the tip. Your view when you're recording should be this. and definitely not this. If you're addressing the Yeti correctly, it will sound like this. Hello and welcome to MacBites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. But addressing the tip rather than the front sounds like this. Hello and welcome to MacBites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. So mindful of your specific recording requirements, select a recording mode and then ensure that you address the Yeti in the correct way and your audio will be improved considerably. Windows 10 makes short work of the installation of hardware. Simply plug the Yeti into a USB port and wait for Windows to do the rest. First thing you'll hear is a ping of recognition while Windows starts to do its thing. How long Windows actually takes to do its thing and install the necessary drivers for the Blue Yeti will depend on your internet connection. And the process does need an internet connection because it needs to download drivers. Once it's done that, Windows will confirm the installation was successful. Now you can check the setup using the control panel from within Settings. And everything that you may ever need to change about your Yeti is contained within the collection of tabs that you will find in there. You'll also note that Windows makes the Yeti the default input device. So let's go into Audacity and make a very quick recording. And this is me saying hello to you using the Blue Yeti I've just installed on Windows 10. So a very simple one-off process to install the Blue Yeti, and then you're ready to go. Installing most devices on macOS is relatively straightforward, and the Blue Yeti is no exception. Now, do bear in mind, here we're talking about the standard USB version. If you have the Yeti Pro and intend to use the analog connection, you'll need to use both a different cable, an XLR cable, and an audio interface. But back to the USB version. Plug the microphone into a USB port using the provided USB cable. Then select System Preferences from the main Apple menu. Within there, select Sound. And then finally select the Input tab. Within the list, you'll find Yeti Stereo Microphone listed, and click on that. Now as a starting point, set the input volume to approximately 80%. You could find you need to change that in the future depending on what you're recording, whether it's very loud or very quiet. But 80% is a good starting point. Then select the Output tab and again within the list, make sure that Yeti Stereo Microphone is selected. And from this screen, you'll want to set the output volume to 100%. Once you've selected the Yeti as your output device, you can then control the headphone volume with the knob on the front of the Yeti. And that's it. The microphone will then appear as an audio source in any audio application you choose to use on your Mac. So here it is in Audacity, available from the drop-down list of input devices. In GarageBand, it's here. And in Adobe Audition, it's here. All those applications are slightly different, but it's the same principle of selecting the Blue Yeti from the list of available input devices. Once you've done that, you're ready to record, and that's the topic of the next lesson. There's almost an endless range of alternatives when it comes to recording apps available for you to use. One of the most popular of these apps is Audacity. There's a few reasons for its popularity. It has a great feature set, it has cross-platform support, and best of all, it's free. You can download Audacity from audacityteam.org. Now the interface is virtually identical on Mac and Windows. I'm going to demonstrate this on my Mac. Once your microphone is installed on your system, which we did in the previous lesson, it will be shown in the microphone list within Audacity. So you need to select Blue Yeti from there and then you're ready to record. The first track will be created automatically as soon as you press record. You can then press pause or stop whenever you're ready. Once you stop the recording, you can press play to hear what you've recorded. And irrespective of where you stop the playback, Pressing record subsequent times adds a new clip to the existing track. If you wanted to add a recording to a new track, you need to create that track first. To do that, click Tracks, Add New Track. You're then given 4 options for the track type: mono track, stereo track, label track, and time track. Well, the Blue Yeti is a stereo microphone, so I'll go for a stereo track. Then you need to select the track that you want to record into. This you may hear referred to as arming the track. And to do that, you need to click in the area to the left underneath the track details. And then press record. Now be aware, recording to a new track starts the recording at the beginning of the timeline. And that means it plays the content of all the other tracks as it's recording. And you can hear that as it goes. Once you've got multiple clips, you can organise them within their current track or move them between tracks. To do that, you need to make sure you're using the Time Shift tool. And then select the clips and move them as required. To make organising your content easier, you can name your tracks as well. To do that, click the disclosure triangle next to the current track name, select Name, and then specify a new name. You'll be grateful that you did that if you need to come back and edit this master file in the future. With that, you're almost ready to record your audio. But to do that, you'll need to know how to effectively monitor your audio levels, and that's the topic of the next lesson. How do you know what your audio recording will sound like before you finish recording? Well, that's what monitoring is for. Monitoring is where you listen to your own audio while you're recording it to ensure it sounds just as you want it to. The Blue Yeti makes it easy to monitor your own audio via its standard 3.5mm headphone jack. This gives you real-time monitoring, no latency, no delays. Latency and delays can really put you off when you're working. It couldn't be easier to attach a pair of headphones to the base of the microphone, but do remember how sensitive the Yeti can be picking up extraneous sounds when you decide where to put the headphone cable. Best practice I've found is use a longer cable than you think you'll need for your headphones. That way it minimises the risk of moving the Yeti. Also, get a flexible cable because there's less chance of it causing noise as it moves. And finally, Velcro the cable to the boom arm. That way it can't move and cause noise. One more consideration, don't consider using a Bluetooth device to use Bluetooth headphones for monitoring, as a Bluetooth connection will automatically introduce some degree of latency. Now I'll be honest, I've never liked this way of ensuring my levels are correct. Hearing myself always puts me off. I probably shouldn't admit that. I mean, if I can't listen to myself, it's a bit cheeky to expect others to listen to me, isn't it? Anyway, it does put me off, so what do? I use the levels interface within Audacity. I can immediately see if I'm peaking and going into the red, and if that happens, the audio will be distorted and not pleasant to listen to. Conversely, you don't want the audio to be too quiet at the point it's recorded either, because no matter how much you can do with it in post-production, the better the source audio you're working with, the better the final result will be. You don't need to actually record anything to use software monitoring either. Audacity allows you to turn on monitoring independent of recording to set up your environment before you actually start recording. Ensuring the quality of the final output is why monitoring is so important, no matter how you do it. Given Apple's long-time complete refusal to include a USB port on their iOS devices, you could be forgiven for assuming that you're out of luck when it comes to using a Blue Yeti on your iPhone, iPad, or even iPod Touch. The thing is, you'd be completely wrong. You obviously can't simply plug a Blue Yeti into an iOS device, but with the addition of a single adapter, that's exactly what you can do and record fantastic quality audio directly onto your devices. The key to making this work is a little gizmo from Apple called the Lightning to USB camera adapter. I know, camera adapter. They could have made it clearer what this extremely useful piece of kit is actually capable of, but for whatever the reason, they choose not to. But the Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter is a dongle, the Lightning connector end of which attaches to your iOS device, and the other end has 2 ports, First, it has a lightning pass-through port, meaning that you can attach a power cable and charge your device whilst you use the other port. Secondly, it has a USB 3 port, to which you can connect not only pen drives and card readers, but also your Blue Yeti. Now, the key to ensuring that this works flawlessly is first of all to ensure that the adapter you purchase is the correct one, by which I mean the one with the lightning pass-through power port. There are two models of the Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter, one with the pass-through port and the other without. You need the one with the power port because the Yeti needs power to drive it, and an iOS device alone can't provide the required level of power. So once you've got the correct adapter, plug it into your iOS device, and it may prompt you to apply an update to it. Mine did, and this is what that looked like. Once I'd updated, and it only took a few minutes, it was all about finding an app that I could record into. The microphone is recognised at system level on the device, so virtually any recording app should work for you. But to give you an idea, I use two recording apps. First, there's Hindenburg. Now, this is a professional class field recorder, and that is reflected in the price because it's almost $30. But you can achieve the same result with less expensive options, including an app called Recorder by the developer Lin Fei. Now, the pro version of Recorder is about $7, but there is a free version to get you started. In fact, Recorder has a benefit even over the more expensive Hindenburg option, in that it prompts you to select a microphone at the point of recording, which is a nice touch, and it's very useful to ensure that you are using your Blue Yeti to record rather than the built-in microphone. The recording is exactly the same as if you were using the built-in microphone, and everything on the Yeti behaves as it does when it's attached to your computer. So the mute button works, you can toggle that on and off. You can also choose to monitor your recording via attached headphones. Now, a few practicalities, tips from experience. Firstly, your Yeti's USB cable. You might need to source another cable for your mobile work, particularly if you tethered your original USB cable to a boom arm back in your studio. Second consideration is the lightning cable. Do go for a long lightning cable. I've managed to source a cable that's 3 meters or 10 feet. And although that is a little bit excessive for what I need, I never have a problem of the cable being too short. Third consideration is still the lightning cable, but this time make sure that the cable that you get is flexible. Now, that long cable that I purchased is extremely flexible, which allows me to curl up the excess, causing no problems at all. There's nothing worse at the point of recording than fighting with an inflexible cable. And the best tip I can give you? Well, if you're using the Recorder app, it has an associated app that works on an Apple Watch. And you can actually control your recording via your Apple Watch. The Apple Watch app lets you record directly onto your Apple Watch, but it also works as a remote control for the iOS version. You can stealthily set a recording going and stop it when you're finished, all without touching your iOS device. So you can have a high-quality recording studio on the road, as long as you don't mind taking your Blue Yeti on the road trip with you, of course. Despite doing all you can to create the best possible environment for recording, there will always be situations where your audio needs to be enhanced in post-production. I'm going to be showing you a simple but fantastically effective process for getting the absolute best from audio, even that audio recorded in the most challenging of circumstances. Think of it as a magic 3-step process for the best audio finessing you can get. Best of all, it only takes seconds to apply to your audio. Now, there's a general setup before we apply the magic. Before you start, always record about a minute of the room ambience, also known as background noise or a noise floor. You'll then be able to use that later to attempt to either remove it or at least reduce the impact of it on the final recording. To show you just how effective Audacity can be in terms of noise reduction, I'm going to create an extreme recording environment. I must be mad, but here goes. I'm placing a fan on my desk right next to the Blue Yeti I'm recording with. Hopefully you can hear that. I know I can, and it's a bit chilly as well. Hello and welcome to Map Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. You'll notice I capture the background noise both before and after the spoken piece, which is here and here. Now, first thing to do is to save the file. In a production environment, the second thing to do would be to make a backup of that file before making any changes to it. You need to make a selection of just the background noise. That's why we've recorded it. With that selected, up to Effect and down to Noise Reduction. Now, the actual noise reduction is a two-step process, which maps to step 1 and step 2 of our three-step process. So step 1 is to get a noise profile. This dialog box is showing you step 1 at the top and step 2 at the bottom. So click Get Noise Profile. Now, unhelpfully, the dialog box closes at that point and you could be left a little lost. But we're going to go back into it and do step 2. Before you do that, you need to select the range of audio you want to have the noise removed from. In our case, it's all of it. So Command and A or Control and A to select all the audio. Back up to Effect, down to Noise Reduction, this time focusing on the second half of the dialog box referred to as step 2. Now, the default settings on a clean install of Audacity are 12 for noise reduction, 6 for sensitivity, and 3 for frequency smoothing. So let's have a look how well that does. So click OK. And it does manage to remove some of the noise. At least it mitigates the impact of it slightly. Let's take a listen. Not bad, but you can still hear it. So what I'm going to do is undo that. So we're back to where we started from. And I'm going to repeat the process a second time. So make a selection, back into Effect and down to Noise Reduction. And I'm just going to click Get Noise Profile to make sure that I have got the right noise print selected. Command or Control and A to select it all, back into Effect and down to Noise Reduction. This time I'm going to make some changes in the lower half of that dialog. So first thing I'm going to do is take the noise reduction as far as it can go, which is 48, and then change the sensitivity to 18. And let's see how it does this time. This time you can actually instantly see that it's solved the problem. It has removed the noise. Let's take a quick listen. Nothing there at all. That's my normal noise floor. But if we go into the actual audio we wanted to keep, we've got a problem. Hello and welcome to Map Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. In stripping out the background noise, it's actually stripped out the depth and tone of what we need to keep. So let's undo again. And let's go in and repeat the process for a third time lucky. Effect, Noise Reduction. Make sure I've got that as the noise profile. Command or Control and A, select all the audio, back into Effect, back down to Noise Reduction. This time I'll dial the effect back somewhat. I'll take it down to 30 and see the impact of that. Click OK. It applies the noise reduction. Yes, the noise has gone. We can see that it's flatline. Let's check. Absolutely perfect. And let's take a listen to the audio. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. Better than last time, but not perfect. So, Command an A. And we're now on to the final step, step 3 of the 3-step process. Up to effect, down to normalise. And let's have a look what we can do in here. Now, you might be wondering why you would normalise audio, and there are two very good reasons. One is to optimise the volume of a file. It could be you have a very quiet file. Now, we didn't initially, but we had a lot of noise in it. Using the noise reduction has affected the volume. So we now have a quieter file than we did have, and normalising is a way to optimise the volume that you have within a file. The other reason you may want to normalise audio is if you've recorded multiple lessons, but you've done it at different days, different times, maybe even different locations. And you may find you've got fluctuating volume, not within each file, but across the range of files. They don't particularly match very well. And using normalise, you can bring the audio level of those files into alignment with each other. A good starting point for normalising is to normalise to -6 dB. So let's try that. And click OK. And that took the volume of that audio up slightly, so let's listen to that. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. And that'll do nicely. The fan noise is gone. But we've managed to improve what's left to get it to an acceptable level. So just to remind you, this is what we started with. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. And this is the final result. Hello and welcome to Matt Bites episode 108. I'm Elaine Giles and I'm here with my co-host Mike Thomas. In this episode, tiger feet with added socks, docks and shifty cows. Now that was an extreme example and I seriously don't recommend you record with the fan running at full blast next to you. But at least you can be confident that if you've done everything you can to optimise your recording environment, the software is able to finesse your final output. And it's really simple to do with the magic 3-step process. Step 1, sample the noise. Step 2, apply noise reduction. Step 3, normalise your audio. And you're left with a much better recording. It's your turn now. Your challenge? Create a short audio file introducing a lesson or maybe a podcast show, or in fact anything that you're comfortable recording using your existing setup. Then all you need to do is follow along with the tips in the rest of this class and enhance your setup before recording an after clip and finessing it with the secret sauce of the Audacity noise reduction and normalisation techniques. You'll need Audacity of course, but it's a free download and cross-platform too. If you don't have it yet, just download the relevant version for your operating system from audacityteam.org. If you're looking for some practice before getting going with your own recordings, don't forget to use the recordings I've provided to test your editing skills. I'd love to hear your progress and I'm sure your fellow students would too, so do please share your before and after recordings with the class in the project gallery. And just for fun, I've posted a recording of part of my first podcast episode from way back in 2006 and re-recorded it again with my current setup. There's a bit of a difference. Enjoy. I can't wait to hear what you come up with. Well, we're at the end of this class dedicated to getting the very best from your Blue Yeti. Thank you for your company along the way. It's most appreciated. We've covered all you need to know to get the best audio you've ever had from your Blue Yeti, from initial setup through configuration options, learning what kit will work best for your specific circumstances, what's most cost effective, and how to install it for the best results. I would love to hear your feedback, and if you've enjoyed the course, I'd be really grateful if you could find the time to review it. I look forward to hearing your before and after recordings and hopefully meeting you again in a future course. Talking of which, what elements of course creation or audio production would you like help with? What topics would you like to see covered in future courses? Do let me know. And in the meantime, Enjoy your audio work, and I'll see you next time.